Hello, and thanks for joining me. Here's what happened this week in Anti-Atheism. How do atheists explain evil? Atheism makes no sense. Wait a minute. Didn't we already do this one? We did. It was featured on this channel last week, but since then, they've changed the thumbnail from a generic Gothic statue thing to a red-tinted Richard Dawkins. And by doing so, they've about quintupled their view count. Man, 15 years since The God Delusion was published, and for all his faults, and they are serious faults, Dawkins is still getting under theists' skin like nobody's business. That's staying power. Now, if you want to have a charitable take on Dawkins, you could say that he and other new atheists showed the incompatibility between an all-loving God and the horrible entity that is the God of the Bible. And you guys at Creation Ministries International have clearly chosen the God of the Bible. So if Dawkins bothers you that much, I'd say you deserve to be bothered. Calling all atheists, ask God. And the thesis is, if you ask God for understanding, God will give you understanding. Which means everyone who says that they did ask God for understanding and didn't receive any are, what, lying? Or we didn't know the secret handshake? Maybe, silly us, we didn't realize that we had to wait until after death for that understanding. Christians seem to bend over backwards to make sure that none of their predictions are actually testable. Brian Sumner from Atheist to Evangelist, Suicide, Divorce, Fame, Redemption, and the thumbnail reads, Disprove God so I can kill myself. That was my mission. First of all, I'm sorry, but spelling does matter. Second, if you wanted to disprove God so that you could do something that you didn't feel you could do because God exists, then you believed that God exists, which means you were not an atheist. So stop saying you were. Third, I'm genuinely sorry that you were in such a terrible state in your life, but I'm just as sorry that the evangelicals were there to take advantage of you. Harvard's atheist chaplain is ridiculous. Aww, are the big bad religious pluralists keeping you up at night? Atheist versus Christian debate, Adam and Eve. Well, now that's not really fair to Christians, because you don't have to be an atheist to understand that the Adam and Eve myth is impossible. Homo sapiens could not have arisen from a single breeding pair, let alone one who lived 6,000 years ago. There are many Christians who understand why that is the case. But maybe you think that anyone who has such an understanding can't be a true Christian and use atheist as an umbrella term for everyone else. This is one reason I'm often skeptical of professed former atheists. God's existence in 2 minutes, irrefutable evidence for God. And it's more of the painting requires a painter nonsense, except this time it's a needle requires a craftsman. Does every snowflake require an intelligent snowflake maker? Except they don't want to hear it because in spite of saying tell us what you think, they've disabled comments on their video. Team Darth Dawkins, Late Night Chat, The Problems in Atheistic Materialism. And the universal response to Darth Dawkins coming up in 3, 2, 1, Toast! Atheist talks smack about God, gets owned by Mr. Kent Hovind. Gets owned according to whom? Why, according to Mr. Kent Hovind. Best video, it says. Best video according to whom? Why, according to Mr. Kent Hovind. Hate to break it to you, mister, but in order to own anything or anyone, you have to exist. And if you existed, you would have met my $500,000 challenge to prove your existence under the same terms as your challenge to prove evolution. You don't own anything. You don't have the best anything. You are a convicted felon living in a gravel pit in Alabama in the ruins of your former glory. One question atheists can't answer. Yeah, I didn't even bother counting the number of atheists in the comments section who did in fact answer it, but the thesis of the video seems to be that if you employ an extreme blanket rejection of all God of the Gaps arguments, then you can't say that you're open to the possibility of a sound argument for God's existence. Well, if being open to the possibility of a sound argument for God's existence requires us to take a more moderate approach to God of the Gaps, then so be it. Even a moderate approach to a bad methodology is enough to show that it's a bad methodology. How to have a God conversation with atheists. And in the description it says, respect their intelligence and use the Kalam argument. Yeah, that's not very good advice. Something similar here, how to have effective conversations with atheists with Sean McDowell. Well, Sean, I would suggest that you start by not deceiving people into believing you're an atheist. Just a thought, because credibility is a thing. Trent Horn again, ways that Protestants argue like atheists. Well, maybe there's hope for Protestants after all. Stephen R. Cook, The Despair of Atheism and the Hope of Christianity. My despair is this. If I'm not careful, I might someday end up becoming a transphobic anti-choice nationalist like Stephen R. Cook. His hope is this. He can stop acting like one anytime he wants. We'll do one more, slaying atheism. Yeah, sometimes folks, this just isn't funny. The video is an interview with one Father Dwight Longenecker about his recent book, one of the theses of which is that it's pointless entering into dialogue or debate with atheists. I would say that it's pointless to enter into dialogue or debate with people who are trying to kill you, either literally or metaphorically. And I certainly don't think that everyone's going to get the message that the Father is being metaphorical. So in the decades to come, Father, if the worst does happen, just remember who started it. And that's what happened this week in Anti-Atheism. If you enjoyed my video and want to help my channel grow, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you want to talk about anything interesting, funny, or tragic that happened this week, leave a comment below. Thanks as always for joining me, and we'll see you next week. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.